Hey everyone, Rick here, and folks, we gotta give a round of applause to BattleLore Second Edition on its 10th birthday or 10th anniversary, whatever you want to call it. It's been 10 years since BattleLore Second Edition was released. Can you believe that? A decade ago? Folks, time flies. It's now been longer that BattleLore Second Edition has been out than BattleLore First Edition was until BattleLore Second Edition was released. BattleLore First Edition was released in 2006, and then 7 years later, out comes BattleLore Second Edition. And I don't know. I've looked on the BattleLore Second Edition forums. I haven't seen any, interesting leaks or anything about a third potential edition. So what is this video about? It's a little retrospective. It's a little celebration. As you can see, this was part of the Runebound universe back in the day when Fantasy Flight was, and I believe they still are to some extent. They kind of rebranded a lot of their games into their Terranoth universe. There was Rune Wars, and of course BattleLore Second Edition, and there were countless other games like the Descent games. I don't know if First Edition was in Terranoth, was it? I know Second Edition was, and I assume Third Edition is as well. But folks, BattleLore was the game of my dreams. Back in the day, I'll admit, I've turned into a bit of a Euroist lately, where I am just love pushing cubes, collecting resources, fulfilling contracts. My Ameritrash phase had kind of gotten pushed to the side. Back when BattleLore First Edition had come out, I was not even into tabletop gaming in 2006. It wasn't until 2009 where I became enamored with the whole idea that board games were more than just Monopoly. And when I saw BattleLore First Edition, and I saw these massive armies. I mean, I did enjoy like Warhammer Fantasy and stuff, but I don't know, it was still simplified, I guess I'll say. But there's still a lot going on here, but it was a lot more condensed is probably the better word. So that you're on this actual board, you're playing a board game with all of these sword and sorcery figures. So BattleLore First Edition, I was super excited about. I did play some of this. Then out comes Second Edition, and I was very much intrigued, but I never played this. I took the shrink wrap off. I ended up buying all of the expansions, but they've been sitting on a shelf. Back when this came out in 2013, I was still living in my parents' basement and dreaming of a place of my own, and I was collecting games en masse back then, pallet loads of games, and I was storing them away, I guess, for a rainy day. And now here we are. Of course, if you've probably all seen, I have my game room tour and whatnot up. If you wanted to take a peek at that, you can see a gap way up in the top there. That's where these BattleLore games were stored, and I hadn't touched it. I took the shrink wrap off. I'm not even entirely sure, and we are going to do an unboxing of this to remind us all of the joys that were inside BattleLore Second Edition. And so all of a sudden, just within the past couple days, I've been feeling like not nostalgic, but actually like really interested in wanting to play this. This comes with a minis assembly guide, and I've already looked through here. There are bags of miniatures. I don't know if I've already assembled them or if they still need assembly or what. The rule book. I've been watching, so I know I lose train of thought all the time. So originally, just yesterday, I started to feel the itch for some Ameritrash rolling dice dudes on a map type games. One of the big ones is Nexus Ops. I want to get to the table immediately. Of course, the benefit of Nexus Ops is it plays up to 4, where BattleLore you could do 2 a side, but it's more or less one-on-one. Does this actually say anywhere on the box what the player count preference actually is? Yeah, it just says 2 on the back of the box. So actually, I don't even know if 2 versus 2 is supported in this base set. But anyway, so I've watched already like 4 or 5 tutorial videos, playthroughs of BattleLore Second Edition, refreshing my memory of this game that I've never even played, but am really, really excited to. I think that this does totally replace the first edition for me. The highlights of the first edition were that, I don't know, it was kind of like medieval, and you could substitute in some fantasy if you wanted to, but it was like one side had medieval soldiers, the other side had medieval soldiers, but every so often there was some fantasy element to it, like there's a giant spider I see in there and all sorts of crazy stuff. And I do have a couple expansions for that one as well, but I played that mostly just without some of the more fantastical things. But I love how this has just gone totally fantasy. So, rule book, fantastic. Full color, as you can imagine. But the great thing are these graphics that really detail what happens, how retreats work, how line of sight works. And then there's this nice big reference book that basically just goes over all of those concepts in greater detail. But the best part is the back that has all the terrain rules, what all the dice sides mean, and what the phases of the game are. This is beautiful. And then, so when I first took this down off the shelf today, I said, I've probably punched and sleeved this already, right? No, wrong. This is still unpunched, believe it or not. We have these headquarter-like tents here, and all the terrain hexes, hills, and water features, and even the game board itself is still in its shrink wrap. So we got to take all this out because I absolutely want to get this played. And then I checked my sleeve stash, and so this is where I don't know if these cards were, I doubt they came in these baggies, right? So this is probably the one thing I did was unshrink wrap the cards and put them in baggies, maybe? I don't know. Maybe they came like this. I noticed I didn't have the right tarot size card sleeves, and believe it or not, I was out of enough of the same kind of standard card sleeve. All I did have were the small card sleeves, and this was back in the day when Fantasy Flight was still doing their own sleeves, and this was the golden age, folks. Fantasy Flight sleeves were my favorite sleeves, and on the back of all of their games, they'd tell you exactly how many sets of each sleeve to get. So, I already had still 2 of the yellow packs for the small cards. Had to go out and get 2 of the bigger ones, these Game-Genic ones. Someone said they're manufactured potentially by the same people who used to do the Fantasy Flight sleeves. I don't know the full story on that, but these are my new favorites. These are the highest quality there are in these kind of gaming sleeves, in my opinion. So 2 sets of those, and then I did go out and pick up another tarot one. So all the cards, we are going to be sleeving those. And then last but not least, in this insert, hidden away, are all of these figures. No, you know what? I'm already seeing now. No, they are not fully assembled. And of course, most of the figures are just single-piece castings. I'm not pulling out any of the single-piece castings here first because all of these individuals need heads. So we've got to find out where those are and attach those. But some of these are just single-piece castings like this cavalryman here. I don't know the names of any of these figures. But I mean, the figures look fantastic, right? And I believe this is the bottom part of this guy. This big old tubby guy. Kind of reminds me of like a Warhammer Plague Lord. Just gigantic, oozing with pus. Maggots all over him, that kind of thing. But, I mean, is that not just a cool figure? And so that's going to be a unit in this battle going up against, like, these noble cavalrymen. So I'm super excited about that, and we definitely need a better way to store all of this stuff. But that's everything that comes in the game apart from these dice. There are only 4 dice. In this huge game about all of these figures battling across a battlefield, and it's dice combat resolution, and the game comes with 4d6 with the custom symbols on it. That blew me away. I was like, really? 4 dice? Well, now let's get into some of the expansion content and put this to the side for now. Because here's where it starts to get really cool. So, and I'm so glad I had the foresight to pick all this up early on, so that now, 10 years later, when I'm actually ready to play it, I have the stuff. All of this is unopened. So here's the BattleLore Second Edition Great Dragon. So this, I assume, is a neutral unit. Or maybe scenario-based, I don't know. I mean, it does say on here, giving players the ability to muster a Great Dragon unit as part of their army. So I assume there's 1 Great Dragon in here, and it does come with some different cards and terrain features, but there's 1 in here. So 1 player is going to be able to add this to their army, supposedly. Then we have the Razor Wings. You get 3 of those with their flight stands. And apparently that was $15 back in the day. Was this one also? This one didn't have a price. But I assume all of these of the same kind were $15. And here's a Mountain Giant. And this is all of the expansions, by the way. There was a promo. I'm looking up all this on Board Game Geek. There was a promo card I don't have. There was I think it was neoprene, a big neoprene playmat version of the game board that was apparently given to retailers, and you could win it at old tournaments. Of course, that was 10 years ago. So I don't know. I looked on eBay. I couldn't even find any on eBay. But I'm missing the promo card and that playmat, and I think I have everything else. Because then here, well, first let's look at this. So I also had evidently picked up the dice pack. So we have 8 more dice, so the players don't have to keep handing dice back and forth to each other. Each person can have their own set of dice. But then we get into the big stuff. So as you saw in the base game, there were essentially 2 factions, red and blue, and of course they have names and all that. But then there were these army packs, evidently for $40, Warband of Scorn army pack, and this one was more forces for the red, and evidently, I believe you could field this as an actual army. I wonder if it's a 50-point army. I don't know if it specifically says that or not, but like in the base game, it says, you can build an army. I guess 50 points is a typical size of army. And so I wonder if this army pack just is 50 points worth of figures. Some of these look familiar, like the Blood Harvesters, but I think some of these are new, not in the base game. And then, of course, there's one for the blue folks, the Hernfar Guardians. Really, out of all the names you could possibly come up with, you came up with Hernfar? Look at this Siege Golem. That just looks so freaking cool. Just like I remember there being Citadel Guards in the base game, but I think the rest of these are potentially still new. But this is a whole army pack for the blue side of things. And then we get a 3rd faction. Can you believe it? This is the Terrors of the Mist army pack. Again, $40. But this is a whole new Undead faction. What would you call the red faction? Kind of like demons or something? I don't know. There's demons and all sorts of crazy bad guys. But now the purple are calling themselves an undead faction. So now you have necromancers and reanimates and bone horrors and a banshee. So this is a whole army for this new purple faction. And because purple is a newly introduced faction, it also got a 2nd army pack. The Heralds of Dreadfall army pack. Look at this guy. How cool is he? And so in here, once again, $40. 9 reanimates. And I think those were what were in here, right? Yeah. But I think that's the only crossover, if I'm not mistaken. So in total, you got this Barrow Worm, you got the 9 Death Knights. How cool is that? But again, this is another army for the Undead. And I just think that's so cool. So now you can play either the blue and with expansions, the red with expansions, or now you have this whole new purple faction with a Barrow Worm, Wraiths, Death Knights, Skeleton Archers, Reanimates, Bone Horrors, Bargeists, Necromancers, and Banshees. You can build up your army with that. I'm just so excited. I cannot wait. But I've had this for 10 years. These have just been in a box for 10 years. This is the kind of thing I love, though, right? I mean, when you are collecting so many games, and I don't play games nearly as, and this was in the past. I was collecting games way faster than I could play them. Nowadays, I'm definitely playing more than I'm collecting. And it's great to now go through my collection and say, hey, BattleLore Second Edition. Remember when this came out? I mean, this was sitting up on my shelf. I was like, oh yeah, this probably came out, what, 5 years ago? No. 10 years ago. Now, the expansions came out 8 years ago. They were in 2015. But the good old base game, 10 years ago. I cannot believe that. But I just want to do a quick video, an unboxing of what you get in the base game, and a look at all the different expansion packs. Yeah, I can't wait to dive in. This is going to be a lot of fun. But as always, folks, thank you so much for watching. I do truly appreciate it. And until next time.